Preventing stroke is a priority for anyone concerned with maintaining their health, and one of the simplest, most accessible actions you can take daily is proper hydration. But while drinking water throughout the day is important, emerging research suggests that not just how much but when you drink water can play a significant role in reducing the risk of stroke. Let's delve into the science and discover the 3 best times to drink water for maximum preventive benefit, supported by concrete data. Stroke, both ischemic and hemorrhagic, often arises due to factors related to blood viscosity, blood pressure, and the delicate balance of fluids within our bodies. By understanding the interplay between hydration and these physiological processes, we can make informed choices that support our vascular health in meaningful ways. The first optimal time, after waking up in the morning. The early hours of the morning may seem routine, but this is a critical window for vascular health. Upon waking, our bodies are in a slightly dehydrated state due to hours of water loss during sleep, mainly from breathing and minor sweat. This dehydration has concrete physiological consequences. According to a study published in the journal Stroke in 2015, blood viscosity, a major contributor to clot formation, peaks in the early morning hours. In fact, the viscosity can increase by as much as 10 to 11% compared to levels later in the day. Simultaneously, research shows that cardiovascular incidents, including strokes, are more likely to occur in the early morning. In a multi-center survey of over 900 stroke patients reported in the Journal of the American Heart Association, about 26% of all ischemic strokes happened between 6 a.m. and noon, with a distinct spike around the time people wake up. The underlying reasons are clear. Overnight, as fluid intake naturally ceases, plasma volume decreases, and the blood becomes more concentrated. Platelet aggregability, a factor in blood clotting, also reaches a peak soon after waking. The American Heart Association highlights that proper hydration can reduce platelet aggregation and mitigate these risks. Therefore, consuming a glass of water, about 200 to 300 milliliters, shortly after waking serves several scientifically backed purposes. 1. It helps restore normal plasma volume. 2. It dilutes the blood, reducing immediate morning viscosity. 3. It prompts gentle activation of the digestive system, supporting a gradual transition to the day's activities. In a controlled trial published in Clinical Hemorrhagiology and Microcirculation, subjects who drank water upon waking exhibited a 7 to 9% reduction in blood viscosity within 30 minutes. While this may seem modest, it's important to recognize that even small improvements, when magnified over years, can translate into a meaningful reduction in stroke risk, especially for those with other risk factors. The second strategic time, 30 minutes before meals. Another critical window for water intake comes before you sit down for your main meals. But why before eating and not during or after? The answer lies in how our body prepares for digestion and manages blood pressure changes associated with food intake. When you eat, especially a large meal, blood flow is redirected to the digestive tract, and in people prone to hypertension, blood pressure can surge in the post-meal period. Dehydration has been shown to compound this effect due to reduced blood volume and increased sympathetic nervous system activation, a pathway implicated in raising both blood pressure and clotting tendency. A study in the Journal of Human Hypertension followed over 500 adults over a 1-year period, measuring hydration status and postprandial, after-meal, blood pressure responses. Participants who consistently drank around 300 to 400 milliliters of water about 30 minutes before meals had, on average, a 10 or 10 mmHg lower postprandial blood pressure spike than those who didn't. This reduction is clinically significant. An average increase of just 5 mmHg in systolic blood pressure has been associated with a 25% increased risk of stroke over a decade, as established by the Interstroke study, which analyzed more than 26,000 cases in 32 countries. Pre-meal hydration serves another purpose. Studies in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition have shown that drinking water before meals can improve circulation, reduce hunger-driven cortisol spikes, and provide mild, natural control over calorie intake. Excessive salt and calorie consumption are well-known risk factors for hypertension and atherosclerosis, which increase stroke risk. Drinking water before meals also promotes better digestion by priming the gastrointestinal tract, reducing the concentration of stomach acids, and easing the work required to process food. People with chronic conditions, such as diabetes, or those taking certain medications for blood pressure, may be particularly prone to dehydration-related complications, making this practice doubly important. The third key time, before bedtime. The idea of drinking water before sleep may raise concerns about nighttime awakenings, but for many, a modest intake at this hour can be crucial. The rationale comes from understanding how blood properties and blood flow change during prolonged periods of immobility, such as sleep. During the night, blood becomes more concentrated as fluid loss, through breathing, evaporation, and minimal sweating, is not replaced. This, as noted earlier, increases viscosity and can encourage clot formation in susceptible individuals. More specifically, a classic analysis in The Lancet showed that dehydration at night is associated with nocturnal dips in blood pressure and heightened early morning platelet aggregation. A Japanese cohort study published in the European Journal of Neurology followed over 10,000 adults and found that insufficient hydration before sleep, defined as having less than 200 milliliters of water 30 to 60 minutes before going to bed, was associated with a 20% increased risk of ischemic stroke over 5 years. Conversely, those who drank a small glass of water before bed, and who did not suffer from urinary retention or heart failure, showed fewer incidents of nocturnal clotting events and reported lower rates of early morning headaches. A common symptom of overnight dehydration and higher blood pressure. It's important to strike a balance. While excess water right before bed may disrupt sleep, a moderate amount, approximately 150 to 200 milliliters, is usually sufficient to ensure that plasma volume remains stable overnight. For those who are elderly, on diuretic medications, or have kidney problems, it's always best to consult with a healthcare provider to individualize this recommendation. Why these specific times matter. Insights from physiology and epidemiology. You might wonder why the timing of water intake is as important as the quantity. The reason lies in our body's circadian rhythms, fluid management, and the dynamics of vascular regulation. Circadian variation. Our body follows a strict daily cycle that affects blood composition, pressure, and hormone levels. Morning surges in stress hormones and clotting factors increase stroke vulnerability during that window. Drinking water at these targeted times helps to offset those natural trends. Preloading the circulatory system. By drinking water before physiological stressors, such as meals or postural changes, such as waking up, we give our circulatory system the resources it needs to remain stable. Prevention of nocturnal dehydration. Providing a gentle buffer before a prolonged period without intake helps to minimize the compounding effects of nighttime dehydration. The importance of hydration for stroke prevention is not speculative. Data from the Interstroke study, which involved over 26,000 people worldwide, identified hypertension, dehydration, and elevated blood viscosity as major modifiable risk factors for both ischemic and hemorrhagic stroke. Concrete data. How much water is enough? The National Institutes of Health recommend that adult men consume about 3.7 liters, about 125 ounces, and women about 2.7 liters, about 91 ounces, of total water per day from all beverages and foods. Yet, a significant proportion of adults, up to 40% by some estimates, regularly fall short of these recommendations, especially as habits and routines take precedence over physiological cues for thirst. A 2012 cross-sectional analysis from the CDC, covering more than 6,000 adults, found that those who consumed recommended levels of hydration showed 18% lower prevalence of hypertension and 26% less risk of incident stroke compared to those with lower water intake, after adjusting for confounders like age, diet, and physical activity. It's also worth mentioning that not just water, but the quality of hydration matters. Soft drinks, high-sugar beverages, and excessive caffeine, when substituted for water, can have the opposite intended effect, increasing diuresis, depleting minerals, and contributing to vascular stress. Sticking to plain water, herbal teas, or infused water with light citrus is the most advisable route. Addressing myths and catering to special populations. Some may worry about overhydration, a valid concern only if extreme intake leads to hyponatremia, a rare condition where blood sodium levels dip too low. For otherwise healthy adults, sticking to thirst cues and modestly increasing water intake during meals, waking, and bedtime is not harmful. On the other hand, certain groups such as the elderly, those with chronic kidney disease, or people on specific medications, like diuretics or blood pressure pills, should always consult with their doctor about optimal fluid intake. Studies show that in these populations, even subclinical dehydration can raise stroke risk and blood pressure. The key is moderation and consistency. Practical tips to build these hydration habits. Set up reminders. It's easy to forget to hydrate in short bursts during a busy day. Placing a glass of water beside your bed, on your desk, or setting a smartphone alarm can reinforce new habits. Make it enjoyable. If plain water is unappealing, add a slice of lemon or cucumber. Keep the portion for each window reasonable. 200 to 400 milliliters is usually sufficient. Monitor urine color. A simple check for light yellow-colored urine is a widely recommended indicator of adequate hydration. Pair hydration with routines. Drinking water when you brush your teeth, before major meals, and before sleep can make the habit close to automatic. Conclusion: small changes, big impact. While no single action can guarantee prevention of stroke, the accumulation of small, evidence-based habits, like drinking water at optimal times, can dramatically shift the odds in your favor. The timing is grounded in both physiology and epidemiological data. Replenish immediately after waking to counteract overnight dehydration and blood thickening. Drink before meals to blunt blood pressure surges and support smooth digestion. And hydrate before sleep to maintain plasma volume and prevent overnight issues. These steps are straightforward, affordable, and accessible to almost everyone, representing a powerful yet underappreciated tool in your personal cardiovascular health toolkit. Remember, it's not only what you drink, but when you drink it, that matters on the road to effective stroke prevention. So next time you reach for your glass, take a moment to consider both the quantity and the timing. It might make all the difference for your long-term health.